They told me a courtroom is where truth stands up straight, but that morning Truth walked in with a scarf around her neck. Judge Serena Miles, 5'4", steady as a lighthouse, took her seat like she always did. Then she did something none of us were ready for. She unbuttoned the collar, eased off the scarf, and there it was. A ring of purple and yellow bruises shaped like a stranger's hands. The room went quiet the way a church goes quiet. "Officer Kyle Mercer," she said, voice calm but rough at the edges. "Do you recognize these marks?" He didn't answer. His jaw did. It clenched so hard the muscles jumped under his skin. You're probably wondering how a Tuesday night snack run turns into that moment. Riverton after 11 p.m. is fluorescent and lonely. Pine Mart was humming like a refrigerator, doors shushing open and shut. Serena had a basket, eggs, Greek yogurt, a little bread, simple stuff. She reached into her purse for her readers, those pharmacy ones with the weak magnification, and a voice cracked the air. "Hands where I can see 'em." That was Mercer. 12 years on the chai, moonlighting in uniform because the department thought keeping him off the street might keep complaints quiet. He'd been tailing her since frozen food, slow and proud, like he was teaching a lesson nobody signed up to learn. Serena did what judges do, explain the law, even when nobody wants it. "Officer, I'm showing you identification," she said. "Wallet out, ID visible." He stared at the seal like it was a sticker a kid slapped on a lunchbox. "Step away from the bag," he said, louder so. Two shoppers pushed past, gave him the nod. People give uniforms, even when the scene smells wrong. The manager, Caleb, nervous smile, khakis too big, drifted over, asked if everything was okay, then floated away the second Mercer said the word shoplifting. What happened next? It wasn't cinematic, it was ugly. He grabbed her wrist, shoved her against the cold glass of the dairy case. Her phone hit the floor and spun in a circle like a coin, and his forearm rose just like that up under her jaw. Serena's hands came up, not to fight, to breathe. "I can't," she rasped, and the sentence ran out of air. In the cereal aisle, a teenage stalker froze with a box cutter in her hand. Then she did the bravest thing in the room, she recorded. By the time they'd hauled Serena through booking Prince's photo, a plastic bench with a bolt in the middle, her neck burned and her shoulder throbbed where he'd cranked the cuffs too far. Attempted concealment, resisting, Mercer said, like he was reading from a manual that never learned shame. A young officer with a baby face, Ben Ortiz, brought her a paper cup of water, eyes flicking to the bruises. "Ma'am, the system messes up," he whispered like an apology he wasn't allowed to write down. Her daughter Talia is a civil rights lawyer. They don't make them any gentler or any meaner when they need to be. She walked in holding her mother's federal credentials like a blade. "I want her out now," Talia said to the watch commander, and the word judge slid through that station like a fire alarm. Faces changed colors. Apologies materialized. A doctor materialized. Mercer materialized with a story that sounded like 20 other stories. Furtive movements, officer safety, split-second decisions. Serena just looked at him, then asked for his badge number and the incident report, please, and thank you. Here's the twist. The week after next, Serena was already scheduled to preside over a use of force hearing. The defendant was Officer Kyle Mercer. Different victim, same pattern. People lined up to tell her to step aside. The chief judge came into her chambers and closed the door like news was delicate. "Serena, you can't do this," he said. "Impartiality." The DA called. The ethics officer called. The police union issued a statement about rushing to judgment and partial recordings. Serena listened, nodded, then called her mentor, retired Judge Lila Boone, who answered the phone like she'd been expecting it. "Baby Lila said they will tell you that your objectivity is the problem, when the problem is that they never expected you to be the one on the other end of the bait-in." Serena stared at her hands a long time after that, the ridges and scars only she knew. "If I step aside," she said softly, "he gets what he wants twice." The city took sides the way cities do. Outside the courthouse, handmade signs, blue flags, drum lines, lawn chairs, prayers. Inside, security wands, extra marshals controlled breathing. Talia moved Serena out of her old house into a downtown apartment after somebody posted the address online, and a noose showed up in the mailbox like a threat from 1963 with free shipping. Someone keyed a slur into Serena's car and the judge's garage cameras mysteriously offline. She started waking up at 2 a.m., gripping the sink, pulse racing, a ghost forearm at her throat until the lights reminded her where she was. Day one of the hearing, defense walks in with a recusal motion thick enough to use as a doorstop. Your Honor, the appearance of bias. Serena listened chin up, then denied it gently but decisively. We do not allow defendants to pick their judges by creating chaos, she said, and half the room let out breath they didn't know they were holding. The testimony ran like a current you can't swim against. Andre Cole, 19 computer science student, arm in a sling, telling the room how a taillight stop turned into a pavement lesson about respect. A training sergeant faced like he hadn't slept, admitting protocols were skipped. The store manager, Caleb, came back, hands trembling, to confess 2 officers suggested what he should remember. Surveillance footage that was corrupted in police logs turned up just fine when the subpoena printer did its job. Then Officer Ben Ortiz took the stand. He cleared his throat like he was about to leap off something high. They call him the adjuster at the precinct. He said, eyes on his hands. Says he adjusts attitudes. Mostly black folks who ask questions. And then Mercer himself. Clean suit, crisp tie, eyes hot. He sat up straight and said he feared for his safety because of yogurt and readers, I guess, and that he'd made a split-second call. The prosecutor, Priya Shah, cool as ice water, walked him through his own report, then through 12 prior complaints that went nowhere. Were they investigated, she asked, or were they handled? His jaw flexed, his foot bounced, his temper showed teeth. Look, he snapped, when these people think their degrees mean they don't have to listen. He stopped, but the words kept hanging there like smoke after a match dies. That night, somebody left a family photo on Serena's desk with a pen-punched hole where her face should be. Federal marshals doubled up, the FBI stepped in, and the mayor started using the word commission. The Brotherhood Council, the union, ran ads about impartiality, careful to imply without ever saying, and reporters went digging through Serena's 20 years on the bench like they were panning for bias. They found consistency instead. Funny how quiet that part stayed. The morning of the ruling, Serena stood in chambers with a mug of ginger tea and her mother's voice in her ear, marching in 65, knees bloodied, going back the next day anyway. She buttoned her robe, glanced at the fading bruises in the mirror, and let the breath out slow. In the courtroom, it felt like a storm was sitting on the roof. Blue uniforms on one side, church hats and T-shirts with Andre's name on the other. Mercer whispered to his union lawyer like the ending was already written. Serena called us to order, then did that same thing from the beginning, took off the scarf, showed the yellow shadows without drama. This is not a personal reckoning, she said, voice steady. This is a public one. She laid it out clean, policy by policy, tape by tape, complaint by complaint. A pattern, not a mistake. A culture, not a fluke. Based on the evidence, she finished, Officer Mercer is terminated for cause. I am referring this file for criminal prosecution. He exploded. Chairs scraped, deputies moved, and for a second it looked like the worst version of the story was going to repeat itself right there under the seal. They got him out, red-faced and spitting. Outside, cameras clicked like cicadas. The chief suddenly believed in accountability. The mayor believed in review boards. The DOJ believed in patterns. Ben Ortiz got reassigned to community work where people shook his hand in grocery aisles. Caleb slept better. Andre registered for night classes again. Talia opened a clinic out of a cramped floor through where the coffee is always burnt and the line is always long. Serena went back to work. She still touches her neck when surprise barges in, still wakes sometimes at 2 a.m., still keeps the scarf folded in a drawer because reminders can be armor if you let them. She talks softer now, somehow heavier and lighter at the same time. In the courthouse hallway, a little girl with braids held up a poster she made by herself. Judge like me. And I swear, Serena's shoulders straightened a half-inch all over again. I wish I could tell you that tied the bow on everything. It didn't. The union still files letters about bias. Mercer's appeal slithers through the system like appeals do. People argue online about whether Serena should have stepped aside. Half the comments swear justice was done. The other half swear justice is a costume. Maybe that's the point. Maybe justice is only alive when we fight about what it looks like. So tell me, would you have recused or stood your ground and taken the heat, the threats, the nightmare at 2 a.m., Was Serena right to keep the case to stop a dirty trick from becoming a playbook? Or did she cross a line by staying? Where have you seen a lesson handed out for asking the wrong question with the wrong skin? Drop your story in the comments, call out what's broken, defend what's worth keeping. If you believe no badge, no bench, No title should put anyone above the truth. Hit like, subscribe. Share this with the one person who thinks nothing ever changes. Then tell me how you think we make it change faster.